Okay, so I have ranked the Hashira, the Kamaboko squad. What else is there? What's up, guys, and welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, welcome to the channel, and today we are going to rank the upper moons. Now, I did get this request on one of the Hashira or Kamaboko squad ranking videos. I can't remember which one, so whoever did that, thank you, because I didn't even think about doing this, because I was like, should I rank all the demons? And then I was like, well, that's like kind of the same as ranking all the demon slayers, and then it just gets to be a lot, so we're gonna just do the upper moons. Now, I am going to put a disclaimer. This video is going to contain Demon Slayer manga spoilers for the rest of the story. There is quite literally no way I can even talk about these characters without spoiling the story in some way. So if you are an anime only and you don't want to get spoiled, you'll have to put a pin in this video and come back to it after the show is completed. If you are a manga reader, you're good to go, or if you don't care about getting spoiled, then you are good to go. I'm not going to spoil a ton, I don't think. However, again, there's just no way that I can talk about my favorite upper moons without talking about manga spoilers, because most of them, their development is still to come, and most of them are placed where they are because of their development, if that makes any sense. So, manga spoilers ahead. Okay, and now that we are only with people who are either 1, manga readers, or 2, okay with getting spoiled, I am also going to say that there's actually a total of 8 demons that I will be ranking here, because there are 2 replacements. I will be including them in this video as well. And coming in at number 8 is Gyokko. Now, unlike ranking the Kamaboko squad and the Hashira, which I talked very often about how much I loved all of those characters, there are some characters that I actually despise and hate, and Gyokko is one of them. To me, he has no redemption qualities whatsoever. Even if you look into his backstory that I guess was in a fan book, he still is a bad guy, and he's still creepy, and while I think that serves the story well, I don't think every single demon has to be in this situation where they have a really sad backstory, and they were manipulated, or they just made the choice to save themselves. Gyokko just... he represents the truly evil people within the story, and I don't like him. So Gyokko will be coming in at number 8. Also, I don't like looking at him. He's creepy. The only thing I liked about him was when Muichiro absolutely destroyed him in the comeback battle. So, coming in at number 7 is Kaigaku. Now, Kaigaku is kind of interesting because I think he actually represents something within the fandom that people don't want to accept, and that is the fact that I think most of us would actually find ourselves in his shoes. Kaigaku's story is a story completely of selfish survival. In both Gyome's backstory and the situation with Zenitsu and Gramps, we see that he just is making the decision to save himself, which is a decision that many of us would do in these situations. In the case of Gyome's backstory, he was a child who encountered a demon and didn't want to die, so he did what he thought he needed to do to survive. Was it incredibly selfish, and do I hate him for it? Yes. Is it realistic? Yes. Now, if he were smarter, he could have just told the demon that he was going to, put out the wisteria incense and just surprise him and run inside, and then the demon can't get to him. He could have done that. Absolutely, but he was also a child, so it's kind of hard to say. And then when it comes to the situation where he got turned into a demon, he was confronted with Upper One. Upper One. He had no chance. He was not even a Hashira. Even a Hashira by themselves would have no chance against Upper One. So, again, he just chose to survive and become a demon. Does that mean that he is a good person? No. Does that mean that I like him? No. But I think he does represent something within the story that a lot of us won't accept, and that is the fact that a lot of us would be probably more like a Kaigaku. Not out of bad intentions, but out of survival, because that is an instinct. That is a human instinct. And most of the demon slayers go against human instinct, which is survival. So, I hate him. I don't like what he did. I don't like the way he spoke to Zenitsu. I don't like the way that he, caused all these people to die, obviously. But I understand where he is coming from. And that's why he's 7 and not 8. Coming in at number 6 is Nakime. Now, Nakime is a demon that I'm very indifferent towards. I don't necessarily hate her, but I just don't have many feelings towards her at all. I think her power is super cool. The Infinity Castle, of course, is amazing, and her ability to control it is very helpful to Muzan. Muzan loves her, but she didn't have enough development or enough time for me to care. So she just kind of slots there where it's not really that I hate her, but there's also nothing about her that I can be like, oh, like, I like that. So she slots in at number 6. Now, this might surprise people that my number 5 is Hantengu. Now, I know the general consensus of Swordsmith Village was that everyone hated both the demons and that they were definitely not as good as Daki and Gyutaro, and I'm not going to get into any, like, super in-depth conversation as to why I think people just didn't understand the storyline going the way it did. However, Hantengu represented something that I don't think a lot of people notice. Again, Hantengu is not quite like Gyokko, where we still kind of got to see his backstory, but the backstory established that he was a bad person, that he was a pathological liar, and he lied so much in his life that he convinced himself that if he murdered someone, it wasn't him, it was his hands. Like, he's just so used to lying that he comes up with the most extreme stuff. I don't feel bad for him at all. However, the reason that Hantengu is fairly high on my upper moons list is because I think he actually represented an interesting development for Tanjiro. And if you have been watching my channel at all, or look at my background at all, you know that Tanjiro is my favorite character. And you might be asking, Hannah, how does he develop Tanjiro's story forward? And that being the fact that Hantengu, outside of, like, Muzan and Akaza at the time of him fighting Hantengu, is truly the first demon that he feels absolutely no remorse for, no empathy, no sympathy at all. But Hantengu is the first demon that is literally begging for it. Tanjiro is very good at being able to send demons off with kindness and a little bit of sympathy, because he's able to understand that many of these demons were either manipulated into becoming demons, or they made a choice that maybe they regret, and while they don't deserve to survive the situation because they still went on to kill hundreds, maybe thousands of people, he is able to discern that they still need, like, some level of sympathy and respect when they are fading away. Obviously, he doesn't feel that way towards Muzan because Muzan murdered his family. He doesn't feel that way towards Akaza yet. We'll talk about that in a moment, because he watched Akaza kill Rengoku. But Hantengu is the one that's, like, literally there begging him, I deserve sympathy. I deserve you to have pity on me. And Tanjiro is like, no. And I think Tanjiro in season 1 wouldn't have acted that way. And now there's other circumstances involved. Of course, when he killed Hantengu, he also thought his sister was dead because of him. So, you know, Tanjiro sees red when it comes to Nezuko, especially in that moment when he thought she was dead. This was the first demon that truly felt that he deserved pity, and it's one of the first ones where Tanjiro was like, absolutely not, you do not deserve this, you can go rot in hell now. I like that about him. So that's why he's ranked as high as he is. I still kind of hate the guy. I think that what he represented in the story was interesting. Alright, coming in at number 4 is Doma. I'm not going to talk a ton about Doma. I think he's really interesting character, but I also hate him. I think he's manipulative, and I think a lot of the fandom that says that he has this, like, sad backstory, I don't necessarily agree. I understand where some people are coming from, but people are really quick to defend him, and it kind of gives me the ick. So, Doma is an interesting character, and he's very beautiful, but I hate him. So he's at number 4. I should also say that, like, I hate all the demons because of what they did and because they killed people. As we get closer and closer to my favorites, it starts to become the people that feel a little bit more human to me. Alright, number 3 is Daki and Gyutaro. Now, there's so much to say about them. In fact, I almost feel like giving them an entire YouTube video because of what they represented within the story. Way more than what Hantengu represented in the story. Daki and Gyutaro literally represented what could have happened if Tanjiro had been there when Muzan attacked. Would Tanjiro and Nezuko both have been turned into demons and become this? Who knows? And there's foreshadowing involved with them being there, with what Tanjiro says when he realizes that he could have been Gyutaro, and there's so much involved with them, and not to mention that what Daki and Gyutaro really represent, I think this is the first time in the story where we truly see they are a parallel to Tanjiro and Nezuko, because their stories are very similar when it comes down to it. Daki and Gyutaro suffered at the hands of humans, and in their most desperate moment, a demon was there to save them. For Tanjiro and Nezuko, they suffered at the hands of a demon, and in their desperate moment, a human saved them. I think their story is really sad. I think their story is really interesting. I have them in third mostly because the two above them, I felt a little bit more about them, and I liked their abilities a little bit better, but Daki and Gyutaro, to me, shifted the story when they did, because it truly just represented what could have been. And Tanjiro sees that, and Tanjiro understands it, and I love the parallels between them, because Tanjiro and Gyutaro are very similar at the end of the day. They will do everything they can to protect their sister, and it makes you kind of wonder, if Nezuko was about to die and he was confronted with a demon, what would have Tanjiro chosen? You know, because we see time and time again that he does see red when it comes to Nezuko, and he doesn't make good decisions necessarily when it comes to her. So would he have just taken up the offer and become a demon? Who knows? And I like that there's that side to him. Obviously, I'm supposed to be talking about Daki and Gyutaro, I'm talking about Tanjiro right now, but these characters drive the plot forward by driving the main character forward, and I like what they did. They progressed the story a lot. There was so much empathy to be felt about them, and I think they were really interesting. Number 2, Akaza. Now, I know this is so many people's favorite demon, but I think Akaza's backstory is incredibly sad, and I sobbed over it when I read the manga. I will sob over it when I see it animated. Oh my gosh, that's so soon. I'm going to talk a little bit why he's number 2, not number 1, when I talk about my number 1. Akaza's backstory just absolutely is probably the best written backstory as far as going the route of the trauma that he received. And again, a lot of people say Akaza is the first one that represents trauma being because of humanity, when it was Daki and Gyutaro. But Akaza's took another step in that route. I loved that we got to see that he didn't even choose to become a demon. Muzan literally just stuck his hand in his head, and he had no choice, and he just had become so numb to feeling because of what he had just been through that he just didn't care anymore, and because of that he became the demon that he became. I'll make an entire video about him at some point as well, because I want to be able to properly articulate my thoughts rather than just rambling about why he's my second favorite. I think he's going to be very well loved when his backstory is animated. I know most anime only still don't understand why people like him so much, because all they know is that he killed Rengoku, and one of the reasons why he's number 2 is because he killed Rengoku. I mean, I guess that's not really true because of who my favorite killed. That being said, Akaza is to me the height of the backstory trope that's in this show, of needing to feel like empathy for him and understand, like, truly we can understand why he did what he did. Partially because he didn't actually really choose to become a demon. He had no choice in the matter, but he just got hit after hit after hit after hit after hit. And what do you do in a situation like that? Yeah, he's number 2. Finally, number 1 is Kokushibo. Also, upper 1. Now, this is a little bit of a different reason why. I guess a lot of people don't understand why I would have Kokushibo above Akaza when I never cried over Kokushibo, and I don't necessarily completely feel bad for him. I like Kokushibo so much simply because I thought his character was incredibly well written and interesting. In fact, probably one of, if not the most well-written characters in the story. He didn't necessarily have this sob backstory. Everything that he thinks was sad about his backstory was really himself just being jealous and living in the shadow of his brother. But the way his story interweaved with the entire plot as a whole was so interesting, not to mention, I think his character design is really cool. I think the fact that he uses a breathing technique as a blood demon art is really cool. And I think he's the most well-written demon. I think he's better written than Akaza. And that's not to say that I don't like Akaza's backstory, that I think he's not well-written. I just think that Kokushibo was more nuanced and more interesting. Do I feel for him the way I feel for Akaza? No. I feel worse for Akaza than Kokushibo. In fact, I don't really feel bad for Kokushibo at all. But the way his story was written was just so good. I wanted to know more about him. I want to know more about him now. I felt like his battle was the peak of the storytelling of the show. There still is more storytelling to come after his battle in the Sunrise Countdown arc, like when Tanjiro finally realizes that he is actually a sun breather and that he needs to stop saying Hino Kamikagura and start saying Hino Kokyu. When that happens in the anime, I'm gonna freak out. In a story that gets a lot of hate for not being well written, I think Kokushibo alone proves that the story is well written, because his story goes against the grain. He wants people to feel empathy. He thinks he deserves to feel sad about his past. He doesn't actually deserve to feel bad about his past. He was selfish, he was jealous, and he wanted to be the best, and he just wanted to seek power wherever he went. At the end of the day, though, I think he really truly realized that he loved his brother. So, I don't know, like, it's so intricate and it's so interesting, and that's why he's my favorite, because I couldn't put the book down when I was reading about him. Akaza, I really, really felt bad for, but at the end of the day, he has a sad backstory, just like so many of the other characters, that we just feel for them because they were traumatized and they lost people and just bad things happened to them. And Kokushibo, again, just goes a little bit off of that, and that's why he's number one, is because I was just like, wow, this guy is really nuanced and really interesting, and he deserves a video for himself as well, so I can properly articulate my thoughts. But he is number one. He is my favorite demon. I somewhat hate him because of what he did and who he kills in the story. Chapter 179, I will, when that's animated, someone check on me, please. That's the fact that I'm gonna have to see chapter 179 animated in a movie theater. Anyway, Kokushibo's still my favorite demon. I don't forgive him for anything that he did. I don't forgive any of the demons for what they did. I think that's important to note, is no matter how manipulated they were, no matter how they chose to become a demon, no matter what trauma they experienced at the hands of humans, they still did horrible things. They still killed many innocent lives. All of them did. And I won't forgive any of them. However, some of them are just really nuanced and really interesting, and I would say Akaza and Kokushibo stand very high above the rest, in my opinion, with Kokushibo just edging him out because of how interesting his story was. But with that is going to be it for this video. How do you rank the upper moons? Do you want me to rank all the demons? Because if I do, I'm probably going to have to do a tier list instead because there's too many of them. Let me know in the comments below. But that is it for today's video. If you liked this video, don't forget to like the video. You can also subscribe to my channel. I would greatly appreciate it. You can also turn on the notifications so you get notified whenever I post a new video. And finally, you can follow me on social media. I am at Looking Nerdy on Instagram, X, and TikTok, and I'm currently trying to grow my platform on Instagram, so I'd greatly appreciate it if you followed me there. The link is in the description below. And with that, as always, I say, Shane!